Okay, guys. So till us today, we were talking about continuous integration and how do we implement the continuous integration in your project development lifecycle. Okay, and what tools are there, and apart from the continuous integration, like what else we can hook it to our CA system like Sonar and all static code analysis. Okay, so not only that, in future your development team may ask you something else as well, like why don't you hook the security analysis tool, okay, some other tool. So integration is pretty, it's not such a big deal. You can integrate it. But the only thing is you just have to find the right plugins or right scripting. Okay, so all those stuff. Now, apart from all this, okay, let me recap what are all the things we have gone through it. So we have seen the introduction about the release management and the DevOps and all, and we have seen VCS administration, okay, and we have seen the build tools, okay, and then we have seen the continuous integration, okay. Now the fourth topic is going to be the third topic. Fourth topic is going to be the build process automation. Sorry, deployment process automation. Okay, deployment process automation. Right. So before taking it to the deployment process automation, first of all, I need to explain you what do you mean by deployment process. Okay, then we'll think about the automation stuff. Let me open a paintbrush. Hey Vamshi, Mahendra, thanks for joining. So just look at this, the pipeline, what we're trying to do it. Okay, so we push our code into the VCS systems. Okay, VCS repo, let me call it as a repo, and we perform the build. Okay, and we perform the unit test. So unit test is part of the pipeline. We perform the unit test. Right. Then once that is done, we come up with some artifacts. Right. So we come up with binaries. We call them as a binaries, or you can call them as a artifacts. Okay. Or you can call it the layman language output files. Whatever, doesn't matter. Okay. So these binaries or these artifacts, once you generate it, what you will do? Okay, that's where the actual deployment comes into the picture. Now, if it is a web application or web service or a Windows or a Windows application or a Windows service, okay, something like that. It can be anything. Okay, so it will be having a binary, and that binary you will use it to run in some server. Am I right? Some server or your machine. So suppose think about it's there are again two types of applications, right? Okay, whenever you're following up this process, right, this entire process, okay, so ultimately when you come up with the binaries are two types. One is a server side artifact and other is a client side artifact. Okay, so typically the client side artifacts are pretty easy, guys. Okay, once you generate, you know to do anything. Why exactly you're not supposed to do anything is you just have to host them in somewhere. Example, I would say mobile applications. Suppose you're working for a company, they under the mobile team. Okay, so if it is a mobile application, right, they will just generate the IPA or APK files. So I hope you know what you mean by APK file. APK is the Android operating system file, and IPA is the iOS operating system file. Okay, those are the mobile operating system. So you generate those files and you ask the the QA team to download them and install it. That's it. Okay, you don't need to deploy anywhere and all. You just have to host somewhere. Okay, typically you will be host on some server, some FTP or some portal. Okay, you just host it somewhere. That's it. Let me write it in a proper way. The client ones are hosted on some FTP or portal, some portal. Okay, when I say portal, nothing but it's something like a Play Store or iTunes stuff for mobile applications. Okay, and suppose if you are downloading, yeah, example, guys, the what do you call, you download Skype, Yahoo Messenger and all, right? You download it from some website, so that also you can call it a portal. They put n number of installers. See, you download the Nexus, okay, you download the Bitnami SVN. So what do you think? Those are all the client side ones. Okay, you will be downloading in your machine, you will be using. So they build and they keep it in some location. That's called a portal or hosted in some portal, right? So the client side is pretty easy. I'm not going to talk anything about the client side applications guide. The most important thing is the server side one. Okay, what exactly server side applications are? These are typically web applications, okay, web apps or web services. Okay, so and also like Win services as well. Okay, so we have different types of this kind of web or Win services. These things we need to host it on some servers. Okay, so we have to choose, okay, some server. Okay, and in this server we need to host the web application. Okay, so to host a web application you might need some application server or a web server. Yeah, somebody is saying something. Yeah, Vamshi or Shashi, any issues? Everything fine? Okay, so we might, guys, say something. You're unmuting and saying something. Okay, so we need a server. Again, on the server we need to host an app server or a web server to host your web application. Okay, so a web application will not run directly. Okay, you need to host the app or a web server on top of your server. Okay, and this server can be a Linux or Windows, doesn't matter. The physical server can be a Linux or Windows. Okay, on top of the this physical server you need to host a app or a web server. So on top of this app or a web server you will be hosting or you will be deploying your application, guys. Then only the people who are accessing the application from their browser, see, typically web application or web services, they access through a HTTP protocol. So some clients or your QA people, they will access this through HTTP protocol in their browsers. Okay, right. So if it is a one web artifact, one web application, it is okay. But as an application, right? Okay, typically you won't be having a front end only. See, typically web service web applications are the front end part, but in some organizations you may get an opportunity to work with the back end deployment as well. Okay, see, the most of the applications are developed in such a way that they will be having a front end and a back end. I hope you might be remember, like, the databases concept. You might be heard somewhere. Okay, so what exactly database concept is? Most of the applications are designed such a way that the front end is completely a kind of a layered, a kind of a reporting layer, and the back end is a data layer. Okay, so typically the data layer contains the databases. Okay, it can be database, it can be data warehouse, it can be some file system, it can be anything. So that is called as a back end. So you might have a back end as well. Okay, so this can be typically a DB. Just a second, guys. Okay, sorry guys. So when it comes to the typical server-side applications, right, most of the applications will be having a front-end part, which is the app layer part, and the back-end part. Okay, so just a second, guys. Let me close this. So this will be typically a database. Okay, now you may need to deploy database components as well, right? So you will be having a Windows or Linux server. On top of it, you will be having a database. Okay, so on top of your database, you will be deploying your DB scripts. Okay, here you deploy some scripts. Actually, deploying scripts nothing but you run some scripts on your database to insert some data, create some tables, blah blah blah. It doesn't matter, like, what you're doing it from your point of view. It is running some scripts. That's it. Okay, so in an application, right? Okay, sometimes you might be having a web application, a web service. Okay, a multiple web application. So you might need to, like, set up in some other server. So this is a, assume, like, the first one is a web service. Okay, so this this is a web service, okay, and this might be a web app, okay. Web app, web service differences. Web app is a front-end application. Web service is a just a service which provides a service, like gets the data from the your backend and gives as an output, okay. So you might be having some web services as well, okay, sometimes in your application, so you have to deploy that as well. So you call this as a running application or a running project all together when everything is running fine on each and every server, and this entire stack of all servers with a deployed application, and they're running fine without any issues, and people will be able to access the application, then this we call it as an environment, okay. This we call it as an environment nothing but a running application on servers, okay. So the application should be deployed and running. Now in an organization, okay, so to complete your entire development as well as deployment process, so it is your responsibility to deploy these binary to the servers, okay, and make sure they are running fine. Then once that is done, your job is to report to the QA team to test the application. So next, after this your job is done, report to QA so that they can start testing the application, okay. Now in this entire process, see, the entire process of deploying your application we call it the deployment process, okay. How do we deploy these things to the app server or a web server or to the DB, okay. All this stuff we need to learn and understand, okay. Then we need to do it manually, okay. So when you do it manually, it will be having n number of challenges, okay, and we need to overcome those challenges, okay. To overcome those challenges, what we'll be using it, all these things we'll see. So we'll go by step by step, guys. So first of all, a deployment automation is nothing but, in a layman language, okay, copying the raw binaries, or let's say raw artifacts, to the server, okay, and make sure the service is running fine, okay. So that's called typically simple deployment, copying the raw artifacts to the server and make sure the service is running fine. But it's a one-line statement, but to perform this, there are a number of things you are supposed to do it, okay. You have to configure few things, okay. You have to clean up few things, and you have to start something. So in a layman language, just copy your binary. So if you're copying to one server, it's okay, okay. Instead of a server, you call it as an environment, because just by copying one war file to this application will not complete your deployment, guys, okay. So you have to do entire stack of services deployment. Then only we call it as a full deployment of an environment, right? So to perform this, first of all, you should have a prior knowledge of, okay, the prerequisite to perform the deployment, guys, okay. So you should have a prior knowledge of, okay, below things. Application, you should know what application you are deploying it, okay, and you should have some app or a web server knowledge, okay, and you should have some knowledge about the DB, right? Then you can deploy the app manually, okay. So if you know the prior knowledge of an application and a web server and app server or DB, then only you can deploy an application manually. But among these prerequisites, right, prior knowledge of these three things, the application, I cannot assure you I can show you application entire flow and all, because if you join any company, right, they might be having a different application. Doesn't matter what type of application it is, okay. So you don't need to worry about the application type. The most important thing is you should have a technical skills of knowing an app server or a database server details, okay. So if you know these two things, okay, knowing the application workflow and application type, application architecture is pretty easy, because once you join a company, your tech lead or dev lead will explain you about your application, and he will explain you what are all the artifacts it will generate, okay, and where are all you need to deploy it. So example, one application is there, that application artifacts are for front end, the artifact is a war file, okay, and for a backend it's a simple SQL script, okay. Now you might be thinking war file, right? So if it is a war file, what kind of a web or app server they'll be using it? So typically when it comes to app or a web server, right, so if it is a dynamic application, okay, if it is having some sort of a war file with some Java classes and all, then it should be deployed on an app server, not on a web server. So typically web server is only to serve the static content, but app server is to serve the static and dynamic content. I hope you remember what is the static and dynamic content. We discussed in the build automation, uh, build process automation actually. Okay, so there are different set of app servers are there, like Apache, Tomcat, uh, WebLogic, okay, WebSphere, Glassfish, okay, Jetty, blah blah blah. Some servers are there. Okay, so these are all the app servers where we can host the WAR file. Okay, so apart from that, there are some web servers as well. Okay, mostly web servers we host it for static content, guys. Okay, static content nothing but to host images, videos, text files, blah blah blah. So your Apache, HTTP server or Nginx, these are all like web servers actually. So we can make use of them like web servers. Okay, they just serve the static content. Okay, so both work on HTTP protocol. Okay, HTTP or HTTPS, guys. Okay, we need something to be served on HTTP or HTTPS protocol. So both work, but most of our applications, if it is having backend nothing but it is a dynamic application, guys. That's for sure. Okay, because they need to write a Java code to connect to the database and all. Okay, so we will be working through one of the application server, which is a Apache Tomcat. Okay, as for this session, and I'll give you some introduction about it, some basics about it. We know to go dig into the deep of the application servers because we are not the right people to administrate these servers or fine tune the performance of these servers. We have a production support team, a production apps team. They will take care about the performance of the app servers and all. Typically you can find the production support engineers, they are good at WebLogic, WebSphere or Tomcat, all this stuff. Okay, so for our knowledge, right, we just need to know about how to deploy into the servers and how to start and stop the services. That's it. Okay, like what a developer will be having a knowledge, right, the same knowledge we should have it about the app servers. Okay, so now as part of my training I'm going to talk about the application server Tomcat. Okay, and also when it comes to the databases, okay, there are different types of database available in the market. It all depends on which database your application team is using, your dev team is using. So they might be using MySQL, they might be using a SQL server. Okay, they might be using Oracle. Okay, they might be using a DB2. We don't know, they can use anything. Okay, so these are all relational databases, RDBMS, relational database management system. Okay, so most of the conventional databases are relational database, but nowadays I've seen few applications they are running on documented databases, the Mongo, RavenDB, okay, and Cassandra. Okay, so these kind of databases are there. These are called documented databases. Okay, so DBs, documented DBs. Okay, I don't have any application to show you the documented databases, but to learn much about them, these are all the knowledge required for the developers, not for us. Okay, just for the sake of naming, right? So somebody may ask you, do you know do you know the Mongo database? You can tell them you might be not never worked on the documented databases, but you worked on the relational databases. But working on Mongo is not such a big deal. Like install the Mongo database and start a Mongo database. Just deploy the development script. That's it. So you don't do anything over here. Okay. So developers are the right guys to they write their source code against the Mongo database to store the code, retrieve the code, and perform some queries and all. Okay. So for us it is not required. So as part of my training, I'll concentrate mostly on the conventional database, which is RDBMS. So I'll give you some basics of MySQL, guys, very basics, which is required for our deployments. Okay, if you are really interested to learn about more, then you just go to the MySQL documentation and you can go through with all the queries and all. So when I say basics, I'll talk about the queries, guys, only the queries. Okay, queries of deployment and backups. Okay, so I'll give you those details to you. So once you have a prerequisites of about your front end and app server and the DB, right? Okay, then I will take one application. Say when the application I said, right, the application depends on which company you join, which application they are building it. Okay, I have one application called Lead App. Okay, treat it like you join some company called Lead App company. This is what your application. Okay, so this application will generate a WAR file called leadapp.war file. Okay, and and it is also having a SQL file called leadapp.sql file. Okay, so that means it has, you need at least two servers, okay, to deploy this application. Okay, one server is for the your web part, okay, one server for application part, okay, and one server for DB part. Okay, so you may need two VMs. Okay, this can be Linux or Windows, doesn't matter. And once you have the server, right, on the server you should have an app server first. Okay, then only you can deploy lead app. And once you have the second server, you should have a MySQL installed in it. Okay, so when it comes to this, I'm using I need the Apache Tomcat on my machine, okay, for application deployment, and for lead app for database I would need the MySQL should be installed in my machine. Okay, so let's begin working on, like, getting the knowledge of these stuff. Okay, once that is done, we'll try to deploy an application manually, okay, into all these things. Then you will know what exactly a deployment. Okay, so this entire deployment, doing it manually, we'll see it once we have gone through the Apache Tomcat DB and all. Okay, so once the successful deployment is done, you'll get a thorough idea on, okay, what we did it actually. Okay, so then we talk about the automation. Okay, so I didn't come to the automation yet, guys. I'm still explaining the deployment process. So as part of the prior knowledge, right, let's see what is an application server, okay, and what all the list of application servers we have it, and among them we are going to discuss the Apache Tomcat. Okay, so app servers. Let me begin with app servers. So as I told you, we have different set of app servers available. Okay, so among them I'm going to talk about the Tomcat. Okay, so just go to the internet and say Apache Tomcat download. You can find an Apache Tomcat on the internet. This was the official web page. And can you see you have a 9th version as well? Just go for the 8th version. Seems to be a more stable one. Okay, so click on that, and once you click that, okay, you can find some zip tars and all. Okay, so let's try to install it on the Linux one. Go to copy that tar one. Okay, and 192.168.33.10. It seems my machine got shut down actually. Okay, DevOps, Linux, VM, so just a second, guys. I'm bringing up my Linux back. Network error. Okay, yeah, it is down, right? So that's it. This is up. Vagrant. Okay, you can just ignore that. Now, wget. Let me increase the font so that you can see it up here. Change 14. Apply. I hope this is visible for you now. Okay, wget. Right click. I'm downloading it. It's hardly 8 MB file, guys. 8 or 9 MB, something around. It should be pretty quick. And make sure when you're setting up your Tomcat, right, the prerequisite would be, okay, so it would be you should have Java installed. Without Java it will not work. Okay, that's the most important thing. The Java should be installed. Make sure if it is the latest one, that would be really good. In my machine, I think we have a Java. Yesterday we already set up the Java here in this machine. Am I right? Yes, this is downloaded now. Let's manage LTR. Where is it? Apache Tomcat. Can you see this? It is here. Try to extract that. Yes, we have. Just extracted that Apache Tomcat. Just get into it. Okay. It's pretty easy to set up that. Get into the folder of your Tomcat. You can find the directory structure over here. Okay. So to start your Tomcat server, right? Get into the bin folder and try ls-l. You can find a file called startup.sh. Okay. Just enter. That's it. It's been started now. If you want to verify whether it is really started or not, you can just try to access your Tomcat with 8080 port by default. You can see if it is really running. You can see a web page here. So it is not running, guys. On 8080, your Jenkins is running. Okay. So now if 8080 is occupied by Jenkins, then which port Tomcat might be started? Okay. You might be thinking, how do you how do you know whether Tomcat is running fine or not? Okay, I can show you. Try ps-af grep Tomcat. Try to run for this. Is your Tomcat running? Yeah, it is running. But you can't open it with 8080 because 8080 is occupied by this. So look at the logs. It will show you. Get into the logs. You can find another folder called logs. Okay. Now try to open a log file called catalina.sh. Okay. Catalina.out. This is the actual log file which will give you any exceptions, any issues, any config changes which happen. Okay. You can just have a look at here. Go to the end and try to maximize this. Just go up. You can find some exceptions. It's pretty easy to understand this exception. See, it's clearly said java.net bind exception address already in use. The port number is already in use, so you cannot start it. So Tomcat is started, but it not served. The reason, it cannot open the port, okay, because the port is already occupied by some other service. Now what I will do, let me try to stop the Jenkins, guys. Okay, service Jenkins stop. Now it is shutting down your Jenkins. Okay, now once it's shut down, right, now what you do, go to the bin. Okay, shut down your running Tomcat, which is no use at the moment. Now try to start it again. Let's see. Refresh this page now. Is it up? Yes. Can you see this? The home screen of your Tomcat application server. So this is how it looks like. Okay. Now we just bought up our Tomcat application server. So typically, as part of any application server, right, you have to learn few things. Okay. First thing is, right, how to start and stop. This is the most important of app server. How to start and stop app server. Okay, you already learned this, guys. Simple thing. Go to the bin and run the stop.sh and start.sh. That's it. Okay. So once it is started, how do you verify if it is up and running or not? That's important. So you have to check the default port number, web link. Okay. And not only that, you can check one more thing is, okay, you can check the port number. Let's start -nl grep 8080. You can see the port is open, right? And you can check the process as well, whether the process is running or not. So three ways you can check it out. But the most important thing is the web link. If this is coming, then only you would say 100% the Tomcat is up and running, because the processor will still show if the port is occupied by something else that you are already seen now. Okay. Now, once that is done, how to deploy an app? Okay, this is the second thing. How to change configs? This is third thing. How to look at the logs? This we already seen. I'll show you a little bit more later. Okay. And sixth thing is, there's nothing else actually. That's it. Okay, these are the four things which you can do with any application server, guys. It's not only with Apache Tomcat. Same stuff you have to do it with your rest of the application servers as well. So deployment. When it comes to deployment, how do you deploy an application? So typically the deployment will happen in two ways. One is a console deployment. Okay, and one is the direct deployment. Okay, this console deployment we call it as a soft deployment. Okay, and this the direct deployment we call the hard deployment. In a console deployment, you no need of app server restart. You don't need to restart your app server, but in hard deployment, restart app server. Restart nothing, what you have to perform stop and start once you do the deployment. Okay, so let's see console deployment. What do you mean by console deployment? Okay, so to perform the console deployment, what you're supposed to do, go to the manager app. Can you see manager app here? Yes, it access denied. So default your Tomcat will not enable the manager app to do the deployment. So what you're supposed to do, copy these two lines, okay, and you just follow the instructions. This guy is saying under conf you can find a file called tomcat users.xml. Just check it out. Okay, under conf, can you see tomcat users.xml? It's there here. Okay, just try to open that. And here under tomcat user section, what you can do it, whatever you copied it here, these two lines, okay, paste it. And what exactly you're trying to do it, you're trying to creating a username password for your manager app. Okay, username is tomcat and the password is tomcat. I'm just keeping both of them same, tomcat. Okay, save it. When you make any changes in the configuration directory, okay, go to the bin, you have to restart, otherwise the changes will not be reflected. Start. Okay, so now you set up the username password for your Tomcat manager application, right? Go back. Now you click on manager app again. Come on. Controller. It might be stored in a cookie. I'll do one thing, guys. Control C. Open incognito mode. No, not that. By default, manager is only accessible from browser running the same machine as the Tomcat. You need to edit the context of the file. What do we need to edit here? If you have already configured the manager application to allow the access and you have used the browser back button, use a save bookmark or similar, then you will need to trigger cross-site request for the HTML interface. You will need to reset the production by returning to main manager page. Once you return to this page, you will be able to continue the manager. If you continue to see this denied, check that you have the necessary permissions. Okay. Let's stop it again. Now start it again. Let me cross check my Tomcat users.xml. Tomcat users.xml. It should be in Tomcat users. That's what we did, right? For example, manager GUI. Okay, note that for Tomcat 7 onwards, the roles required to use the manager application were changed from the single manager role to the following 4 roles. Okay, you will need to assign the role required for functionality used to access. We need a GUI that's already there. Manager GUI. Yes. You are not authorized to view. If you wish to modify the situation, manage this context or exploit. Okay. Context.xml. What do we need to do here? Okay. The contents of this file will be loaded for each web application. Default set of monitor resources. If one of these changes, the application will be reloaded. Uncomment this to disable the session persistence. Default set of monitor response. Shutdown. Changes. In Tomcat 7, I don't find this issue actually. What could be the issue? Conf. Tomcat 8 manager console. Let me see, something might be changed in Tomcat 8 because I never tried the Tomcat 8. Till Tomcat 7 it works absolutely fine. I don't want such a big documentation at the moment. Let me see the Stack Overflow. Somebody having the same issue. Tomcat manager. Okay, what this guy is doing? After reading the Tomcat documentation page, I have also tried val tag into the context.xml. However, as soon as I set privileges, let me see answers. To the default access to manager's UI, configure this in your configuration files or XML and the context.xml manager application. And add your IP as well as vhost. In Tomcat, there are so many security restrictions they got, might be. This is because don't use Tomcat as distributed from upstream. Right. Let me try this one. If it works, conf server.xml dockbase. What is it? Dockbase. You should change dockbase. There is a dockbase. Just quickly now. Shut down. Does it help? Let's see. No, it doesn't help. Let me check it out, guys. In my local, I think I have Tomcat 7 because there might be introduced something new on the Tomcat 8. Let's not waste time on investigating that. You can check it out, guys. Just go through this blog, the first part. You should be able to fix it. If you look at the first part things, guys. So add your IPI in your configuration, nothing but you can access the Tomcat manager only from your laptop, not from anywhere else. Okay, so just a second, download the 7, go back, not documentation part, Tomcat 7, copy hyperlink, duplicate, right click. Okay, terminus JetX VF Apache Tomcat 7. Now what we will do it, we'll go back here, shut down this Apache Tomcat 7, go to the bin. So before going to the bin, go to the conf, open Tomcat users.xml, okay, and try to add those two lines, guys. What are the two lines? We have it here. Okay, now go to the bin, just start. So let's see. So guys, this is Tomcat 7. Can you see this? Click on Manager app. Yep, this is what I'm expecting. Some security feature might be introduced in the 8. You might need to tweak a little bit more. That we can see it later, okay? So that's not our main concern. So we give a username password as Tomcat. That's not. So this is a manager application, guys, okay? This manager application is also called console application. So this kind of a console application you can find for most of the app servers. For WebLogic or Sphere you can find it. So right now in this application server there are 5 applications running. You might be thinking, how do you see 5? See, this table is that one. One is a root application, the slash, okay? And one is a docs, one is an example, one is a host manager. You know what are the Tomcat manager you are watching right now in this browser? That is also a web application, okay? And that is what the last one, manager. If you click on that, it will take you to the same page, okay? If you click to the examples, there is another application example. So this is giving some examples, that's example projects. And docs, documentation. So it is also another web application. So like this, these are the default application coming with your Tomcat, okay? So apart from this default applications, okay, if you want to deploy your custom application, okay, what you can do it is choose your warfare. Okay, can you see this? Select warfare. This way of deployment we call as a console deployment. Okay, where is my choose button? Come on. This is crazy. Okay, here it is. So guys, go to your DevOps folder and practice. I think we did some lead app application, right? We should be having a war file here. Build lib, can you see war file? Choose this war file, try to deploy it. Deploy. That's it. Can you see lead app has been deployed here? Did you see this one here? Okay, and you can just click on that. It will take you to the lead app application, but it is failing at the moment. The reason, uh, okay, there's different issues. Only the thing is, the lead app application requires the backend should be up and running. Okay, and also there is an issue with some tags.html can be resolved in web.xml or jar files. Okay, some exceptions are there. We'll see these exceptions. Okay, but this is what the deployment process. Okay, we'll see whether it is running fine or not. We'll see it later. Okay, but right now try to understand. This is called console deployment. A pretty easy deployment. Okay, you can just browse and upload it. Okay, where am I? Here. Next, what is the direct deployment? So when you deploy it from the console, right? Okay, where do you think it will be deployed? So this is what the direct structure. You know, bin contains the start stop, logs contains the log file, conf contains the configuration files. Okay, there's another folder called web apps. Here, whatever you deploy from console, you can find it here. Can you see leader.war here appearing over here? So this is a war file, zipped format. Okay, once you deploy it, right, your Tomcat application server will extract into a folder like a lead app with the same name. What is the war file name? It will extract and it will serve from the that location. Okay, now from the console you can uninstall also. Can you see this? Undeploy, just undeploy. Now when you undeploy, you look at this, it's disappeared here, so it deleted from here. So whatever it is doing it in the uh, application server, right, the same thing you can deprecate it with your uh, the second process, direct deploy. Okay, now what you need to do it in a direct deploy, instead of using the console, don't use the browser at all. I'll try to deploy. I'll show you how to deploy it now. Okay, so simply copy paste your war file into the web apps location. That's it. That's called the what do you call console deployment. So how to copy paste? Okay, you can just do the SCP from your Windows machine. DevOps and practice. Build lib drag, come here, drop, and vagrant at the rate 192.168.33.10 colon. What is the path, guys? Take the path. This is the path. Paste it. Now it just copies. Provide the password. Now it's copied. Guys, check it out. Did you see leadup.war file? Okay. Now once you copy this war file, what you're supposed to do is go to the bin, shut down, okay, and start up. Okay. Now go back to the web apps now. Did you see it is extracted? It was not there earlier. Now it is extracted. So the thing is, when you do it from direct deployment, you have to restart your app server. Okay. So that's what we did. Now this is also deployment. It's successfully completed. Now if you want to access the application, you can access from the browser. See, not only browser, you can just look at this. Now you try to refresh your application. Can you see lead app here again? But you didn't do it through console. You did it from direct deployment. Okay. So whichever the deployment you do it, the errors are same actually. Okay, console or direct deployment. So this we'll see it later how to fix these errors and how. Okay. So for right now, we have successfully deployed, and these are the two ways of deployment. Okay. Next, how to change the configs. The config changing we already just tried now. Okay. It's all about like adding the username passwords to your config file. Apart from that, I can show you one more config. Okay. How to change the port number of your app server, port number of Tomcat. How to change the port number of Tomcat. It's pretty simple, guys. Go to the conf folder. You can find a server.xml file. You can search for existing port. Can you see 8080 port here already? Okay. So what you can do it, this port, make it as a 8081. That's it. Save it. Okay. So once you save any changes, you make it as a config folder. You have to restart any changes. Restart. Okay. Now you try to access your Tomcat with 8080. Did you see you can't access 8080? Okay, as you change the port, put the 8081. Okay, sorry guys, 8081 is occupied by your Linux operating system. I think it is not started on 8081 as well. Okay, so some service might be using that. Now we'll change it to some other port, 8089. Okay, shutdown.sh, startup.sh. Right? What is that, guys? 8089. It shouldn't take this much of time. Logs, Catalina, Shift G. Okay. Config server.xml 8089. Can't access this. Eight zero nine zero. Shutdown.sh. Not on it. Startup.sh. Yeah, guys, it was running actually. It took a bit time. That's it, nothing else. 8090. You might be thinking why it is taking time this time now. The reason, we deployed an application, right? Okay, whenever you restart all the deployed application, it is redeployed. Okay, so that's the reason it takes some time. So when there is no application deployed, it is pretty quick. Now it is taking more time, but actually it is working fine. So this is how you change the port number, guys. Okay, and what else? Okay, port number. You can change the app base as well. Okay, so how to change the app base? Changing an app base, nothing but right now the app base is what your web application. So app base, nothing but where are your web applications are there. Okay, they're in a web app, so you can change that in a server.xml. Search for app base. Can you see it is a web apps now? Instead of that, what you can say, you can give some different location, home, vagrant. Okay, deploy, some folder deploy. Okay, now once this is done, just go to the bin, shutdown, shutdown.sh. Something wrong. If it is not shutting down like this, kill all -9 Java, so that all the process will be killed, Java process. Okay, no process right now. Start it. Okay, so once it is started, now look at this, guys. There is a deploy folder here. Can you see deploy folder? What do you have it? Some jar file is there. Okay, so it will not deploy the jar file actually, so you should have a var file. Okay, now you try to access the 8090, you don't have anything, not even a home page and all. Okay, now but I'll try to copy that Apache Tomcat 7 web apps lead app dot var here into deploy folder. Look at this. I have a lead app dot var, right? Keep an eye over there. Again, do the ls-l. Okay, so once you deploy, direct deploy it, right? Remove this hello world, guys. That might cause some problem to your application server. Can you see this? It is automatically extracted the lead app.var file. Okay, see, if you restart, it will extract. Even you don't restart it, it will extract. So the thing is, if you restart it, you're 100% sure it will deploy the application. It extracts fine. Okay, now once it is extracted, now what you need to do to access the application, type your app name here, the var name, lead app. Did you see this? No, lead app. Any spelling mistake? Yeah, so if you are getting this 500 error, nothing but it has been deployed. Okay, This is another config change. You can change the app base from your original location to some other location as well. How to look at the logs? Okay, looking at the logs is you can find a folder called logs, get into the logs, and you can find a catalina.out. Okay, so try to open the catalina.out. You can see any exceptions and all over here. Okay, so just have a look at this if you can see any exceptions here. Can you see this? There are some exceptions actually. Yeah, here is an exception. Do you see this? So if a developer wants to know what exactly happened, you can just let him know like these are the exceptions. So apart from that, there is one more important file is a localhost dot blah blah blah. Okay, this also contains that. Not that. There is one more file is a localhost access. Yeah. Did you see this, guys? You can see who is accessing your application. Okay, who is nothing but their IP address will be tracked here. Okay, so 192.168.33.1. Okay, you can get their IP address over here. So that's what my IP address of my Windows machine, IP config. You can just check it out. My IP config 33.1 somewhere it will be there. Where is it? Where is it? Yep, here is 33.1. So 33.1 is the only machine which I am accessing. So I am trying to access the web link from this machine only. If somebody else access, you can see their link. So not only that, it will give you HTTP status as well. Whether it's a 404 or 500. Can you see this? If it's 200 nothing but, I could able to access. 404 nothing but, no, it is down. 500 nothing but, some errors. Okay, and 403 nothing but forbidden, like you are not authorized. So these are the logs. If you wanted to perform a clean restart of your Tomcat, right, what you are supposed to do is shut down your Tomcat, come to the logs. Okay, you have all the logs, right? Remove all the logs. RM, I just cleaned up the logs. Not only that, there are two more folders are there. Temp. Okay, so inside the temp you have some temporary files. You can just delete them as well. You don't have to worry about that. And there's one more folder is there, work. Okay, get into the work. Work contains a folder called Katina. Inside the Katina you have some folders. Okay, these are all like maintains the cache of your applications. Okay, in case if you wanted a clean restart, right, you try to remove all this cache. Okay, remove everything, just clean up that, come out, and now you go to the bin. Now you restart it. Okay, and this we call as a clean restart. Sometimes a developer may ask, like, even after restart the changes may not reflect in the deployment. So you may need to do this clean restart so that what will happen, it will remove the cache and creates a new cache. Okay, so that will help the developers to know the issue status. Okay, whether it's really reproducing it or not. Okay, so that's it, guys. Most of this stuff, like how to start stop, how to deploy, how to change the configs, how to look at the logs. If you know these 4 steps with any application server, that's more than enough for us. Okay, in order to dig into the much details, nothing but somebody may ask you, how do you improve the performance? Okay, how to attach this to the load balance? So all those stuff is not your job. Okay, your job is to whatever is required for the deployment, that you learn. Okay, so this is about the Apache Tomcat server. So the app server knowledge, okay, for the deployment purpose of your front end, which is a WAR application. Where is a web service, there is a web application, the application artifact will be WAR only. Okay, now the next thing is the database. Okay, so we'll see the MySQL database in a tomorrow's session. I'll give you some examples like how to deploy a MySQL application. First of all, how to install server, how to deploy, how to take the backup. Okay, how to run some SQL queries. All this stuff we'll see it in a tomorrow's session, and after that we'll go with the total application deployment and see a running environment. Okay, so that's it from today's class, guys. Do you have any questions? Do you have any questions? Kiran, Mahinder, Shashi, Umshi, Gautam.
Fine.
Okay, cool. Thanks so much, guys. Good night. We'll see you tomorrow same time.